Hi everyone, Ginny here. I hope you all have been staying healthy and keeping up with the work for the Google Classroom. There will be a bit more information about the persuasive essay assignment that we discussed in last week's video at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. For today's lesson, we are focusing on research paper skills. More specifically, we'll be looking at determining a topic for a research paper and creating good research questions based on those topics. You will need a notebook and writing utensil for this video, so please get those ready now. As a do now, I want you to explain what the difference is between a topic and a research question and what the relationship between the two is. The questions are, firstly, what is the difference between a topic and a research question? And secondly, what is the relationship between a topic and a research question? Pause the video now to complete the do now. Okay, so the two main differences between a topic and a research question are scope and function. The topic's scope is generally broader than the research question. Given the relative broadness of the topic, the research question's job then is to hone in on a specific aspect of the topic. As you can see in the graphic, one topic can generate many research questions. Now let's put this in terms of function. The function of the topic is to guide the researcher to a desired research question, and the function of a research question is to shed light on a specific aspect of the topic. To gain a better understanding of this, let's look at a silly example I came up with. Let's imagine you are writing a research paper on the topic of Nicki Minaj, the rapper. A question you could have coming from that topic could be, what is the impact of Nicki Minaj's retirement on the success of other female rappers in the music industry? Nicki Minaj, the topic, very broad. The question, what is the impact of Nicki Minaj's retirement on the success of other female rappers in the music industry, is much more narrow. It has brought specificity to the topic. Okay, now that we've warmed up with that do now, let's really get into the meat of this week's video. Let's start off with looking at the criteria for a good research topic. When creating a research topic, there are three key things to keep in mind. Firstly, scope. Is the scope of your topic narrow enough to yield good research questions? Secondly, appropriateness. Is your topic something that is appropriate to write about in an academic setting? And thirdly, interest. Are you even interested in this topic? In other words, are you willing to spend an entire year writing and researching this topic? To practice, let's look at these example research topics. The topics are history of Africa, the economics of camels in the Middle East, improvements to public health in the 20th century, polygamy, and the importance of technology. Which of the following topics meet the criteria of scope and appropriateness? Can you identify what criterion the others do not meet? Please complete this activity in your notebook. Pause the video now. Now that you've finished that activity in your notebook, let's go through all of the example research topics. Looking at the graphic, you can see a Venn diagram. The circle on the left of your screen is for appropriateness, and the circle on the right of your screen is for scope. Starting from the left, you'll see that the topics history of Africa and the importance of technology are in the circle for appropriateness. However, they do not meet the requirements for scope. Both of those topics are way too broad. You could have numerous questions come from those, and thus they are not a good guide for you in narrowing your topic into a research question. All the way to the right of your screen, you'll see polygamy. It does not meet the requirements for either appropriateness or scope. It is also really broad, and you could have numerous questions coming from the topic of polygamy. It is also not appropriate given that it is practiced in some settings but not in others. Therefore, it is not appropriate for an academic setting. Our two successful research topics are the economics of camels in the Middle East and improvements to public health in the 20th century. Both of these are firstly appropriate for an academic setting, and they also narrow topics down enough so that you have an idea of a few research questions that could come from them. Overall, your research topic should have a field, like economics or public health, and a scope of time or context, like a period of time or a region of the world. Now that we've nailed down what makes a good research topic, let's pivot to looking at what makes a good research question. The criteria for a good research question are as follows. Firstly, clear. Is the research question clear? In other words, does your research question provide enough specifics that you as the reader can easily understand its purpose without needing additional explanation? Secondly, focus. Is your research question focused? In other words, is the research question narrow enough that it can be answered thoroughly and completely in the space of your research paper? Thirdly, concise. Is the research question concise? In other words, does the research question include simple language and no unnecessary words or phrases? As I always tell you guys, keep it simple. And lastly, arguable. Is your research question arguable? In other words, is the research question one that has answers that are open to debate rather than accepted facts? For the below questions, I'll be leaning into the previous two topics that met our criteria. Which of the following topics meet the criteria of clear, focused, concise, and arguable? Can you identify what criterion the others do not meet? Please complete this activity in your notebook by creating a chart like the one to the right of the screen in your notebook and writing about the questions below. The questions are as follows. Are hand washing stations good for the public health of a community? Secondly, what can camels do for the economy? The third question, could the continued investment in space exploration lead to improvements in healthcare? The fourth question, can the introduction of camel ownership in individual households create sustainable improvements in community wealth? The fifth question, why do some communities perish from preventable deaths? And the sixth question, how can the introduction of a shareholder model in the camel industry lead to increased equity, or does the industry have increased assets through government ownership? Complete the activity in your notebook and pause the video now. Now that you've finished the activity on your own, let's go through it together. Here's my chart. How does it compare to yours? I'll explain my reasoning for each of the questions. Question number 1 was, are hand washing stations good for the public health of a community? Hand washing stations are good for the health of a community is an obvious answer, and therefore it is not a question that needs to be argued, and it does not focus on an issue that needs to be examined in a research paper. Question number 2 was, what can camels do for the economy? This question is too broad, so it cannot be argued. Similar to question 1, it is not a question that focuses on something that can or really needs to be examined. Question number 3 was, could the continued investment in space exploration lead to improvements in healthcare? While it may not seem like the most obvious question to meet all our criteria, it certainly does. The keywords make this both concise and clear, such as investment and improvements. Moreover, this is certainly a question that must be argued, as some could believe that investing in space exploration is a waste. This question is also focused, as investment in space exploration is tied to improvements in healthcare. Question 4 was, can the introduction of camel ownership in individual households create sustainable improvements in community wealth? To improve this one, the researcher should make a clear connection between camel ownership and community wealth. My suggestion would be to replace community wealth with a different concept or idea. How would you improve this question? You can answer that in the Google Classroom if you like a short practice assignment. Question 5 was, why do some communities perish from preventable deaths? This question is not focused and has too broad a scope, so we don't know what communities are being analyzed. Therefore, this is a question that cannot be argued, since the research question is not focused enough. Lastly, we have question number 6. How can the introduction of a shareholder model in the camel industry lead to increased equity, or does the industry have increased assets through government ownership? The fact that you probably do not know what equity means is already grounds for a research question that will leave your reader in the dark, and therefore it cannot meet the clear, concise criterion. Unless you're writing for the Harvard Business Review, this researcher should simplify the question to have language that is understandable. In the research, you'd have an opportunity to delve into vocabulary that you can define for your reader, but you must first establish they understand the underlying concepts and ideas in your research question without being concerned about not having the prior knowledge to understand the paper. For this week's practice assignment, write an example topic and a research question on something you're interested in learning more about. Please submit this to the Google Classroom page so that we can give you feedback. Let's now remind ourselves of the purpose of the Google Classroom and these videos, to get you ready for those competency assessments in August. To prepare you all for your 12th grade research paper, there is an assignment called Rising 12th Grade Research Paper Prospectus Assignment that will be due when you return to campus in August. An explanation of the assignment in detail and a rubric is within that document and has been posted on the Google Classroom. Another important note, there is a prompt for the persuasive essay on crossbones. I have posted that prompt and rubric for the essay on the Google Classroom page. Please make sure that you read the prompt and that your essay is answering the given prompt. I am currently finishing up with editing crossbones, and a PDF of the book will be posted shortly. That's all for this week. Keep up the good work.